Heat transfer factors. Heat transfer in a heat exchanger. In a typical heat exchanger, heat is transferred by conduction, convection, and radiation from one fluid to another. As a general rule, most heat transfer occurs by conduction and convection. Fin fan cooler example. One example of a heat exchanger is called an air fin cooler or a fin fan cooler. A fin fan cooler is used to transfer heat from a process fluid to the air that flows through the cooler. The cooler consists of a series of tubes, each of which has thin metal fins. The cooler also has a fan. During operation, the fluid being cooled passes through the tubes. The fluid transfers heat to the tubes by conduction and convection. Some of this heat is then transferred through the tubes and into the fins by conduction. From there, heat in the tubes and the fins is transferred by conduction and convection to the surrounding air. To increase the amount of heat transferred to the air, the fan in the cooler can be started. Starting the fan increases the airflow through the cooler, which in turn increases the amount of heat that is transferred by convection to the surrounding air. 5 affecting factors. There are several factors that can affect the transfer of heat inside a heat exchanger. Temperature difference. One factor that can affect the transfer of heat inside a heat exchange is the difference in temperature between the two fluids. As the difference in temperature increases, the amount of heat that can be transferred also increases. Surface area. The amount of surface area in a heat exchanger is another factor that affects heat transfer. Basically, the greater the surface area, the greater the amount of heat transfer that can occur. Material density. Another factor that can affect heat transfer is the type of material through which the heat is transferred. Materials that are more dense are better at transferring heat and are normally used as conductors of heat. Materials that are less dense will transfer less heat and are normally used as insulators. Flow rates. The flow rates of the fluids involved also affect the amount of heat that can be transferred. Generally, as the amount of fluid that passes through a heat exchanger increases, the amount of heat that can be transferred also increases. Contaminants. Heat transfer can also be affected by the presence of contaminants in the fluids. These contaminants, or impurities, can build up on a heat exchanger and form another layer of material that the heat must transfer through. This layer of material will act as an insulator, and the amount of heat that can be transferred in the heat exchanger will decrease.